The flames from her father's hand had turned 3 years of thoughts and dreams into ash and smoke, and Amelia Zimmerman had watched without tears because she had learned long ago that crying in front of Samuel Zimmerman only made things worse. It was late September in 1883, and the dust from Egar, Arizona, settled over everything like a second skin. Amelia stood on the porch of their modest ranch house, 16 years old as of that morning, watching the last curls of smoke rise from the blackened pages her father had thrown into the metal barrel. He had found the diary tucked beneath her mattress during one of his searches, those invasive inspections he performed whenever the whiskey made him mean and suspicious. The diary had contained everything she could not say aloud in a house where silence was safer than speech. Her hopes, her observations about the traveling merchants who passed through town, her descriptions of the mountains that surrounded their valley, her questions about a world beyond the harsh landscape she knew. Her father had read portions aloud in a mocking voice before consigning it to the flames, calling her foolish and vain for thinking her thoughts mattered enough to preserve. "You will spend your time on useful things," he had said, his breath reeking of alcohol, even though morning had barely broken. "Not filling your head with nonsense. You are here to work, girl, not to dream." Amelia had nodded, keeping her eyes down, her hands clasped in front of her worn cotton dress. She had learned this posture of submission years ago, after her mother had died from fever when Amelia was 12. Her father had grown harder after that, meaner, as though punishing Amelia for surviving when his wife had not. The ranch demanded constant labor, and Amelia provided it without complaint. She fed the chickens, tended the small vegetable garden that somehow survived in the unforgiving soil, hauled water from the well, cooked meals that her father barely acknowledged, and mended clothes until her fingers ached. She had one friend in town, a girl named Clara who worked at the general store, but even those visits were rare. Her father did not approve of idleness, and he considered friendship idle. The September heat pressed down on the town like a weight. Egar sat in a valley surrounded by mountains, and though the elevation kept it cooler than the desert lowlands, summer's end still brought days that baked everything beneath an endless sky. The town itself consisted of perhaps 200 souls scattered across ranches and a central cluster of buildings: the general store, a saloon, a church that doubled as a schoolhouse, a blacksmith, and a handful of other establishments that served the ranching community. Amelia had lived her entire life within a 20-mile radius of this place. She had never seen a city, never ridden a train, never experienced anything beyond the daily grind of survival in a landscape that gave nothing freely. 3 days after her father burned her diary, Amelia was in town purchasing supplies. Her father had given her a list and exact money, counted out to the penny, with instructions to return before sundown. The general store smelled of leather and tobacco, and the faint sweetness of peppermint sticks that Amelia had not tasted in years. Clara was behind the counter, her blonde hair pulled back in a practical bun, her smile genuine when she saw Amelia enter. "Happy belated birthday," Clara said quietly, glancing toward the back room where her father, the store's owner, was taking inventory. "I wish I could have seen you on the actual day." "Thank you," Amelia replied, studying the list her father had written in his harsh, angular script. "I need these items, please." Clara began gathering the supplies: flour, salt, coffee, a tin of lard, thread, and a box of matches. As she worked, she chattered softly about town gossip, about the dance that would be held at the church in 2 weeks, about the new school teacher who had arrived from back east and was already scandalized by the rough manners of the local children. Amelia listened, grateful for the sound of a friendly voice, but she did not contribute much to the conversation. She had learned to be careful with words, to hoard them like precious coins. The door opened behind her, bringing with it a gust of hot air and the jingle of spurs. Amelia moved aside without looking up, making room at the counter. She was aware of a presence beside her, tall and silent, the scent of horse and leather and open air. "I will be with you in just a moment, sir," Clara said, her tone brightening in the way it did when she found someone attractive. Amelia had heard that tone before. "No hurry, miss," a man's voice replied, low and easy, with the trace of a drawl that suggested Texas. "Take your time." Amelia glanced sideways, a quick flicker of curiosity she could not suppress. The man was young, perhaps 22 or 23, with sun-darkened skin and dark brown hair that curled slightly at the nape of his neck beneath his hat. He wore the practical clothing of a working cowboy: worn denim trousers, a faded blue shirt, a leather vest, boots that had seen considerable use, and a gun belt slung low on his hips. His face was lean and angular, with a strong jaw and eyes that were a surprising shade of green. Those eyes caught hers for a moment, and he nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement that held no threat, only polite recognition. Amelia looked away quickly, heat rising in her cheeks. She was not accustomed to male attention, and she did not trust it. Clara finished assembling Amelia's supplies and tallied the cost. Amelia counted out the money carefully, aware that her father would check every penny. As she gathered the heavy canvas bag of goods, Clara leaned forward slightly. "That is August Irving," she whispered, her eyes bright with interest. "He is working at the Double R Ranch, just hired on last week. Come all the way from Texas, or so I heard." Amelia nodded, not trusting herself to respond. She felt the man, August Irving, still standing nearby, waiting his turn with the patience of someone accustomed to long days and slow time. She hoisted the bag, which was awkward and heavy, and turned toward the door. "Miss, let me help you with that," August said, stepping forward. His voice held genuine concern, not the mocking tone she heard from her father or the leering interest she sometimes heard from men in the saloon. "I can manage," Amelia said automatically, the words coming out more sharply than she intended. She had learned to refuse help because help always came with expectations. "I'm sure you can," August replied, his tone mild, unoffended. "But it is a heavy load for anyone to carry far. If you have got a wagon or a horse, I could at least get it outside for you." Amelia hesitated, aware that Clara was watching with open interest, aware that refusing again would seem churlish. "Just to the hitching post," she said quietly. "Thank you." August took the bag as though it weighed nothing, and Amelia preceded him out of the store into the harsh afternoon light. The sun seemed to bleach all color from the world, leaving only browns and pale yellows and the deep blue of the sky. Her father's wagon was indeed at the hitching post, the two horses standing patiently in the heat. August placed the bag in the wagon bed with care, making sure it was secure. Then he stepped back, touching the brim of his hat in a gesture that seemed both old-fashioned and courteous. "You have a good day, miss," he said. "Thank you," Amelia said again, climbing up onto the wagon seat. She did not look back as she drove away, but she felt his eyes on her, a sensation that was strange and not entirely unwelcome. Over the next week, Amelia tried not to think about August Irving, but his face kept appearing in her mind during the long hours of chores. She told herself she was being foolish, that a man like that, a cowboy with the freedom to travel where he pleased, would have no interest in a ranch girl who lived under her father's thumb. Yet she found herself wondering where he had come from, what had brought him to Egar, whether he was the kind of man who was gentle or cruel, patient or demanding. Her father's mood had worsened. The ranch was struggling. Cattle prices had dropped, and they had lost several head to rustlers earlier in the summer. Samuel Zimmerman drank more, spoke less, and watched Amelia with eyes that held both resentment and calculation. She knew he was thinking about her future, or rather his vision of it. There were men in town who had expressed interest, men older than her father, widowers looking for someone to cook and clean and warm their beds. The thought made Amelia's skin crawl, but she knew she had little say in the matter. Women in her position rarely did. On a Thursday afternoon, Amelia was in the garden pulling weeds when she heard the sound of hooves approaching. She looked up, shading her eyes against the sun, and saw a single rider coming up the long drive toward the house. Her father was out checking the fence line on the northern pasture, which meant she was alone. Caution prickled along her spine. A lone woman on a remote ranch was vulnerable, and everyone knew it. The rider came closer, and Amelia recognized the lean form of August Irving. He sat his horse with the easy grace of someone who had spent most of his life in the saddle, moving with the animal rather than against it. He stopped a respectful distance from where she stood and dismounted in a smooth motion. "Afternoon, miss," he said, his hat in his hands. "I am sorry to trouble you. I am looking for Samuel Zimmerman. I was told this was his ranch." Amelia stood slowly, brushing dirt from her skirt. Her heart was beating faster than it should, though she could not have said whether from weariness or something else. "He is out in the pasture. He will not be back until evening." August nodded, turning his hat in his hands. He seemed to be weighing his words. "I wanted to speak with him about purchasing a couple of horses. We have got a man at the Double R who knows your father has some good stock." "You can come back this evening," Amelia said, "after sundown." "I will do that," August agreed. But he did not move toward his horse. Instead, he looked at her with those green eyes that seemed to see more than was comfortable. "Forgive me for asking, miss, but are you all right? You look like you have not slept much." The question was so unexpected, so direct and concerned, that Amelia felt something crack inside her chest. No one had asked her that in years. No one had noticed or cared. "I am fine," she said, but her voice wavered slightly. August studied her for a moment longer, and she had the unsettling feeling that he could see through the lie. "If you do not mind my saying, miss, you look like you could use a friend." "I have a friend," Amelia said, defensive now. "Clara at the store." "That is good," August said gently. "Everyone needs friends. I just meant if you ever need help with something, or need someone to talk to, I am at the Double R Ranch. It is only a few miles west of here. Anyone can tell you how to find it." Amelia did not know what to say to that. The offer seemed genuine, but she had learned not to trust apparent kindness. "Thank you," she managed, "but I am fine." August nodded slowly, accepting her words even if he did not believe them. He settled his hat back on his head and moved toward his horse. Then he paused, his hand on the saddle. "Miss, I do not mean to overstep, but I saw you in town the other day, and you seemed like someone carrying a heavy burden. I have got sisters back in Texas, and I would hope if they needed help, someone would offer it. That is all I am trying to do." He mounted his horse with the same fluid grace and rode away before Amelia could respond. She stood in the garden, watching him go, feeling something strange and painful twisting in her chest. It felt almost like hope, and hope was dangerous. That evening, August did return, and Amelia listened from inside the house as he and her father discussed horses and prices in the yard. Her father's voice was gruff but civil. Business was business, and Samuel Zimmerman needed money. They concluded their transaction, and Amelia heard the sound of coins changing hands, the stamp of hooves as August led two horses away. She did not go outside. She did not want her father to see any recognition in her eyes, did not want to invite his questions or suspicion. 2 more days passed. Amelia worked from sunrise to sunset, her body moving through familiar routines while her mind wandered. She thought about what August had said, about his sisters, about his offer of help. She thought about the diary that was now ash, about all the words she had lost. At night, lying in her narrow bed, she sometimes composed entries in her mind, paragraphs she would have written if she had still possessed the means. But the words faded by morning, lost like dreams. On Saturday, her father sent her to town again with a list of supplies and a warning to be quick about it. Amelia drove the wagon with practiced efficiency, grateful for any excuse to leave the ranch. The town was busier than usual. A cattle drive had passed through earlier in the week, and some of the drovers were still lingering, spending their wages on whiskey and cards. Amelia kept her head down as she made her way to the general store. Inside, Clara greeted her with excitement barely contained. "Amelia, you will never guess what happened. That cowboy, August Irving, was in here yesterday asking about you." Amelia's heart skipped. What do you mean asking about me? Clara leaned over the counter, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He wanted to know your name, whether you were married or promised to anyone. I told him your name and that you were not promised, though heaven knows your father might have plans. Why, Amelia? I think he is sweet on you. Do not be ridiculous, Amelia said, but her cheeks burned. He does not even know me. He wants to, Clara said, grinning. I told him you are the kindest girl in town, that you have had a hard time since your mother passed, that your father is strict. I hope that was all right. Amelia did not know if it was all right or not. Part of her was frightened by the idea of anyone taking an interest in her, especially anyone her father might see as a threat or an opportunity. Another part of her, a part she had tried to keep buried, felt a flicker of something warm and bright. She was loading the last of her supplies into the wagon when August appeared beside her, seeming to materialize out of the Saturday crowd. Miss Zimmerman, he said, his voice respectful. May I speak with you for a moment? Amelia glanced around nervously. The street was crowded enough that their conversation would not be entirely private, but also crowded enough that it might be noticed. I should not, she said. My father expects me back. Just one moment, August said. Please. There was something in his tone that made her pause. She set down the bag she was holding and turned to face him fully. What is it? August reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a small package wrapped in brown paper. He held it out to her. I wanted to give you this. I hope it is not too forward of me. Amelia stared at the package, making no move to take it. I cannot accept a gift from you. I do not even know you. I know, August said, but I wanted to do this anyway. Miss Clara at the store mentioned that you had a birthday recently. I thought this might be something you would like. Slowly, as though the package might burn her, Amelia took it. It was small and surprisingly heavy. What is it? Open it when you are alone, August said. And Miss Zimmerman, if it is not appropriate or if it causes you any trouble, you can throw it away or give it to someone else. I just wanted you to have it. Before she could respond, he tipped his hat and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Amelia stood holding the package, her heart hammering. She looked around to see if anyone had noticed the exchange, but the townspeople were absorbed in their own business. Quickly, she tucked the package under the other supplies in the wagon bed, hiding it beneath a sack of flour. The drive home seemed to take forever. Her mind spun with possibilities and fears. What could August Irving possibly have given her? Why would he give her anything at all? What would her father do if he found out? The questions chased each other in circles, and by the time she reached the ranch, her nerves were stretched tight. Her father was in the barn when she arrived. Amelia unloaded the supplies with shaking hands, slipping the brown paper package into the deep pocket of her skirt. She carried the goods into the house, put everything away, and then went to her small bedroom. She closed the door, which was something she was rarely allowed to do, and sat on the edge of her bed. For a long moment, she just held the package, feeling its weight. Then, with trembling fingers, she unwrapped the paper. Inside was a book, but not just any book. It was a diary, bound in soft brown leather, with her initials AZ stamped in gold on the cover. And attached to the cover, in a small brass fitting, was a lock with a tiny key tied to it with a piece of ribbon. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Tears sprang to her eyes, hot and unexpected. She ran her fingers over the smooth leather, over the initials that August must have had stamped specially, over the lock that would keep her words safe. He had understood. Somehow, this man she barely knew had understood what the burning of her diary had meant, had understood the violation and the loss. She opened the diary carefully. On the first page, in a neat, masculine hand, was a brief inscription. Your thoughts are worth preserving. They are yours alone, and no one has the right to take them from you. May this book serve you better than the last. There was no signature, but none was needed. Amelia held the diary to her chest, and for the first time since her mother's death, she wept. But these were not tears of grief or fear. They were tears of gratitude, of recognition, of the stunning realization that someone in this harsh world had seen her and had cared enough to offer her something precious. She hid the diary in a place her father would never think to look, inside the lining of her winter coat, stored in a trunk beneath her bed. The coat would not be needed for months yet, and by the time winter came, perhaps she would have found a better hiding place. That night, after her father had gone to sleep, she lit a candle and opened the diary to the first page. She wrote, "Today, a cowboy named August Irving gave me back my voice. I do not understand why, but I will not waste his gift. These are my words, and they are mine alone." The next morning was Sunday, which meant church. Amelia wore her best dress, a faded blue cotton that had been her mother's, altered to fit her slimmer frame. Her father drove them into town in the wagon, silent and hungover, his jaw tight. The church was a simple whitewashed building with hard wooden pews and windows that let in too much light and heat. Reverend Parker was a stern man who preached about sin and judgment more than grace and mercy. But Amelia did not care about the sermons. She came because it was expected and because it gave her a chance to see other people, to feel less alone. She took her usual seat near the back, and her father sat beside her, smelling of whiskey and sweat. Clara and her family sat a few rows ahead, and Clara turned to give Amelia a quick smile. Other familiar faces filled the pews: ranchers and their wives, townspeople in their Sunday clothes, children squirming and whispering until their mothers shushed them. And then, just as Reverend Parker was stepping up to the pulpit, the door opened and August Irving walked in. He was cleaned up, his hair damp and combed back, his shirt pressed, his expression respectful. He scanned the room, and when his eyes found Amelia, he nodded slightly before taking a seat on the opposite side of the church. Amelia's heart was racing. She kept her eyes forward, her hands folded in her lap, but she was intensely aware of August's presence. She wondered if he had come to church because he was genuinely devout or because he had hoped to see her. The thought made her feel something she had almost forgotten: desirable, noticed, valued. After the service, as people milled about outside in the morning sun, August approached her. Her father was speaking with another rancher about cattle prices, and Amelia stood a few feet away waiting. August walked up with his hat in his hands, his expression open and friendly. "Miss Zimmerman," he said, "I hope you are well this morning." "I am, thank you," Amelia replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced nervously toward her father, but he was still deep in conversation. "Did you receive the package I gave you yesterday?" August asked quietly. "Yes," Amelia said. "I do not know how to thank you. It is the kindest thing anyone has done for me in a very long time." August's face softened. "You do not need to thank me. I just wanted you to have something that was yours, something no one could take from you." "How did you know?" Amelia asked. "About the diary that was burned?" August glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Miss Clara mentioned it. She said your father burned it on your birthday. I thought that was a cruel thing to do, and I wanted to make it right if I could." Amelia felt tears threatening again, but she blinked them back. "You put a lock on it." "Yes," August said. "So it can stay private. Your words should be yours alone." Before Amelia could respond, her father's voice cut through the moment like a knife. "Amelia, time to go." She jumped, startled, and turned to see her father, watching her with narrowed eyes. He looked at August, then back at her, suspicion hardening his features. "Get in the wagon," he ordered. "Yes, sir," Amelia said quickly. She gave August one last look, a look that she hoped conveyed gratitude and apology, and something more, something she did not yet have a name for. Then she hurried to the wagon and climbed in. Her father joined her a moment later, and as he took up the reins, he said, "Stay away from that cowboy." Amelia's stomach clenched. "I was just speaking with him, Father. He was being polite." "I do not care what he was being." Samuel Zimmerman said, his voice hard. Men like that are trouble. They drift from place to place, never settling, never building anything. You will not speak to him again. Do you understand me? Yes, father, Amelia whispered, but inside, something rebellious stirred. She thought of the diary hidden in her coat lining, of August's kindness, of the way his eyes had held concern and respect rather than cruelty. She thought of her father burning her words, destroying something precious because he could. And she realized, with a clarity that was both frightening and exhilarating, that she did not want to obey her father. Not anymore. Not about this. Over the following days, Amelia's thoughts returned again and again to August Irving. She wrote about him in the locked diary, describing his green eyes, the way he moved, the sound of his voice. She wrote about the gift he had given her and what it meant. She wrote about the future she wanted, a future that was nothing like her present. The diary became her confidant, her safe place, the one corner of the world where she could be completely honest. Her father noticed her distraction and grew more irritable. He criticized her cooking, her cleaning, the way she hung the laundry. He watched her constantly, as though expecting her to disobey him in some dramatic fashion. The tension in the house built like a summer storm, oppressive and inevitable. 10 days after August had given her the diary, Amelia was drawing water from the well when she heard hoofbeats approaching. She looked up and her heart leaped when she saw August riding toward the house. He was alone, and his expression was serious. He dismounted a short distance away and approached her slowly, as though approaching a skittish horse. "Miss Zimmerman," he said, "I know your father told you to stay away from me. I heard him from where I was standing, but I needed to see you to make sure you were all right." "Why would you think I was not all right?" Amelia asked, though she knew the answer. August looked toward the house, then back at her. "Because I have seen men like your father before. I have seen how they treat the people they are supposed to protect. My own father was a hard man before he died. I know what it is like to live in a house where there is no kindness." Amelia set down the bucket she was holding. "You should not be here. If my father sees you—" "I know," August said. "I am not trying to cause you trouble. I just wanted you to know that if you ever need help, if you ever need to leave this place, I will help you. No strings attached, no expectations. I just cannot stand by and watch someone suffer when I might be able to do something about it." Amelia stared at him, her mind reeling. "You are offering to help me leave my father's house? If that is what you need," August said simply. "I know I am a stranger to you, and you have no reason to trust me, but I am offering anyway. You deserve better than this. Miss Zimmerman, you deserve a life where you are not afraid." His words pierced something deep inside her, something that had been frozen for so long. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care what happens to me?" August was silent for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was low and honest. "Because from the moment I saw you in the general store, carrying that heavy bag and refusing help because you have learned not to trust anyone, I felt something. I do not know what to call it yet, but I know I cannot forget you. I know I want to see you happy, and I know I would do just about anything to make that happen." Amelia's breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like this, with such raw sincerity. "I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything," August replied. "Just know that the offer stands. And Miss Zimmerman, Amelia, if I may call you that, I would very much like the chance to get to know you better. With your permission, of course. I am not trying to force anything or rush anything. I just want you to know that I am here, and I am not going anywhere." Before Amelia could respond, she heard the sound of the front door slamming. Her father emerged from the house, his face dark with fury. "I told you to stay away from my daughter," he shouted, striding toward them. August did not flinch. He turned to face Samuel Zimmerman, his posture calm but alert. "I meant no disrespect, sir. I was just passing by and thought I would check on your well. see if it needed any repair work. I do odd jobs around the area. It was a transparent lie, and all three of them knew it. But it gave Samuel Zimmerman a moment to pause, to consider whether making a scene would be worth the effort. He looked at August with undisguised hostility, then at Amelia. "Get in the house," he told her. "Yes, father," Amelia said. She wanted to say something to August, wanted to thank him or warn him or tell him she felt the same inexplicable pull. But she did not dare, not with her father watching. She walked toward the house, her spine straight, her hands steady despite the turmoil inside her. Behind her, she heard her father's voice, low and threatening. "If I see you near my property again, Irving, I will shoot you for trespassing. Do you understand me?" "I understand you, sir," August replied, his tone neutral. "But I want you to understand something too. If your daughter ever needs help, if she ever wants to leave, I will be there, and there is nothing you can do to stop that." Amelia paused in the doorway, her heart pounding. She did not turn around, but she heard the sharp intake of her father's breath, the fury in his silence. "Get off my land," Samuel Zimmerman said finally. "Now!" Amelia went inside, but she stood by the window, watching as August mounted his horse and rode away. He did not look back, but she felt the connection between them like a physical thread, stretching but not breaking. That night, her father locked her in her room. It was not the first time. He had done it before when he thought she was being disobedient or willful. Amelia didn't fight him. She simply let him turn the key in the old lock, let him mutter about ungrateful daughters and troublesome cowboys. When his footsteps receded, she took the diary from its hiding place and wrote by the light of the moon streaming through her window. She wrote, "August Irving has offered me freedom. I do not know if I have the courage to take it, but for the first time in my life, I believe there might be something worth taking." The days that followed were suffocating. Her father barely let her out of his sight. When she had to go into town for supplies, he accompanied her, standing over her like a jailer. He made inquiries about August, learning that he was well liked at the Double R Ranch, that he was a hard worker, that he kept to himself mostly, but was friendly when spoken to. This information seemed to make Samuel Zimmerman even more suspicious, as though kindness itself was a character flaw. Amelia felt like a bird in a cage, beating her wings against the bars. She thought constantly of August's words, of his offer, of the look in his eyes that suggested he truly cared what happened to her. She had never experienced anything like this feeling of being seen and valued. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. 2 weeks after August's visit to the ranch, Amelia was in town with her father when she saw Clara rushing toward her. Her friend's face was flushed with excitement and worry. "Amelia, I need to speak with you," Clara said, glancing at Samuel Zimmerman. "It is about a dress order for the dance next week. May I borrow Amelia for just a moment, Mr. Zimmerman?" Samuel Zimmerman scowled, but he could hardly refuse such an innocuous request. "Be quick about it," he said, moving toward the saloon across the street. As soon as he was out of earshot, Clara grabbed Amelia's arm. "August Irving asked me to give you a message. He said he will be at the church tonight, after dark. He wants to talk to you, alone. He said it is important." Amelia's heart raced. "I cannot sneak out. My father locks my door at night now." Clara's eyes widened. "He locks you in? Amelia, that is not right." "I know," Amelia said quietly. "But what can I do?" Clara thought for a moment, then reached into her apron pocket. "Take this," she said, pressing something into Amelia's hand. It was a small file, the kind used for metalwork. "The lock on your door is old. You might be able to work it open with this. But you have to be careful, Amelia. If your father catches you—" "I know," Amelia repeated. She closed her fingers around the file. "Thank you, Clara." That night, after her father had locked her in and gone to his own room, Amelia waited until the house was silent. Then with shaking hands, she worked the file into the old lock. It took nearly an hour of patient, quiet effort, but finally she felt the mechanism give. The door opened with a soft creak that sounded deafening in the silence. Amelia crept through the house like a ghost, avoiding the floorboards she knew would groan, holding her breath every time the wind rattled a window. She made it to the front door, eased it open, and slipped out into the night. The moon was full, flooding the landscape with silver light. The night air was cool on her skin, a relief after the stuffy heat of her room. Amelia ran, her skirts gathered in her hands, her heart pounding with fear and exhilaration. The church was a mile from her house, and she covered the distance as fast as she could, driven by a need she could not fully articulate. August was waiting for her, sitting on the church steps. When he saw her running toward him, he stood quickly, his face filled with concern. "Amelia," he said, meeting her halfway. "Are you all right? Did anyone see you leave?" "No," Amelia gasped, breathless from the run. "My father is asleep, but I cannot stay long if he wakes and finds me gone." August took her hands in his, and the warmth of his touch steadied her. "I understand. I am sorry to ask you to take this risk, but I needed to see you. I needed to know if you are all right, and I needed to tell you something." "What?" Amelia asked, searching his face in the moonlight. August took a deep breath. "I am falling in love with you, Amelia. I know it is fast. I know it seems impossible, but it is true. Every time I see you, every time I think about you trapped in that house with a man who does not value you, it tears me apart. I want to give you a different life. I want to give you freedom and safety and all the things you deserve, but I will not pressure you. I just needed you to know how I feel." Amelia felt tears streaming down her face, but they were tears of joy, of relief, of a happiness so intense it hurt. "I feel it too," she whispered. "I thought I was going mad, feeling this way about someone I barely know. But it is there, August. It is real." August cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. "Then come with me. Tonight, right now, we can ride to the next town, find a justice of the peace, get married. You will be free of him, Amelia. You will be your own person." Amelia wanted to say yes. Every fiber of her being wanted to say yes, but fear held her back. Fear and years of conditioning. What if he comes after us? What if he finds us? "We will deal with that together," August said. "I will protect you, Amelia. I swear it. And even if I could not, even if he somehow found us, you would still be my wife. He would have no legal claim over you anymore. You would be free to make your own choices." Amelia looked into his eyes, those green eyes that had shown her nothing but kindness, and she made her decision. It was reckless and impulsive, and completely unlike her usual careful nature. But it was also the first real choice she had ever made for herself. "Yes," she said, "I will come with you. I will marry you." August's face broke into a smile so bright it rivaled the moon. He kissed her then, softly and sweetly, a kiss that held promise and hope, and all the tenderness she had been starving for. When they pulled apart, he took her hand. "My horse is here. We will ride together. Do you need to get anything from your house?" Amelia thought of the diary, still hidden in her coat lining. "Yes," she said. "There is one thing I need, but we have to be quiet." They moved quickly, riding double on August's horse, back to the ranch. Amelia's heart was in her throat as they approached the dark house. August stayed with the horse while she slipped inside, moving with the stealth of desperation. She went to her room, retrieved the diary from its hiding place, and grabbed a few small items of clothing. Everything else she left behind without regret. She was almost to the door when she heard her father's voice. "Where do you think you are going?" Amelia froze. Samuel Zimmerman stood in the doorway of his room, a lamp in one hand and his rifle in the other. His face was twisted with rage and something that looked almost like betrayal. I am leaving, father, Amelia said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. I am 18 years old, and I am leaving. The hell you are, Samuel Zimmerman said, raising the rifle. You belong to me until I say otherwise. Now get back in your room, and we will discuss your punishment in the morning. No, Amelia said. It was the first time in her life she had openly defied him, and the word felt like liberation. Her father's eyes widened and then narrowed with fury. I will shoot that cowboy for this. I will kill him where he stands. If you hurt him, you will hang for it, Amelia said, and I will testify against you. Everyone in town knows how you treat me, father. They will believe me. It was a bluff, but it worked. Samuel Zimmerman hesitated, his finger on the trigger, his face a mask of impotent rage. In that moment of hesitation, Amelia ran. She bolted past him out the door into the night where August was waiting. She threw herself onto the horse, and August spurred it into motion. Behind them, she heard her father shouting, heard the crack of the rifle, but the shot went wide. They galloped into the darkness, the wind whipping Amelia's hair, her arms wrapped tight around August's waist. She did not look back. She looked only forward, toward the future. They rode through the night, pushing the horse as hard as they dared. August knew the land well, and he guided them along paths that would be hard to track. As dawn began to break, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they reached the town of Springerville, 20 miles from Egar. Springerville was larger than Egar, with a proper courthouse and a justice of the peace who was willing, for a generous fee, to marry them without asking too many questions. August had saved his wages carefully, and he counted out the coins without hesitation. They stood before the justice, dusty and exhausted, and spoke vows that felt more real than anything Amelia had ever experienced. I, August Matthew Irving, take you, Amelia Catherine Zimmerman, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I, Amelia Catherine Zimmerman, take you, August Matthew Irving, to be my lawfully wedded husband. The justice pronounced them married, and August kissed her again, this time as her husband. Amelia felt a joy so profound it was almost painful. She was free. She was loved. She was beginning a new life. They found a small boarding house where they could rest and eat. In a clean, simple room with sunlight streaming through the windows, August held Amelia and promised her that he would spend the rest of his life making sure she was happy and safe. They talked for hours, sharing stories of their pasts, their hopes for the future. August told her about growing up in Texas, about losing his father young, about his mother and sisters who still lived on a small ranch near San Antonio. Amelia told him about her mother, about the loneliness of her childhood, about the small joys she had found in books and nature, and her secret diary. We should send word to your sisters, Amelia said. I would like to meet them someday. We will visit them, August promised. In the spring, when the weather is good for traveling. They will love you, Amelia. How could they not? They stayed in Springerville for 3 days, resting and planning. August sent a telegram to the foreman at the Double R Ranch, explaining that he had gotten married and would not be returning. The foreman sent back his congratulations and August's final wages. It was not a large sum, but combined with what August had already saved, it was enough to start fresh somewhere new. Where do you want to go? August asked Amelia as they sat together in the boarding house dining room, eating breakfast on their third morning as husband and wife. Amelia thought about it. She had spent her entire life in one place, had never had the freedom to imagine living anywhere else. I do not know, she admitted. I have never been anywhere. Then we will choose together, August said. He spread a map on the table between them. We could go south to Tucson, or west to California, or north to Colorado. What sounds good to you? Amelia studied the map, overwhelmed by the possibilities. Her finger traced the lines and names, lingering on a place she had heard of but never seen. What about Santa Fe? She said. I have heard it is beautiful, and that there are opportunities there. August smiled. Santa Fe it is. It will be a long journey, but we will take our time. See the country. enjoy being together. They left Springerville the next morning, traveling north and west. They bought a covered wagon and a second horse, supplies for the journey, and a few pieces of simple furniture. Amelia used some of August's money to purchase fabric and a sewing kit, planning to make curtains and clothes for their new home, wherever that would be. The journey to Santa Fe took nearly 2 months. They traveled slowly, camping under the stars, stopping in small towns to resupply and rest. August taught Amelia how to shoot a rifle, how to track animals, how to read the land for water and shelter. Amelia taught August how to appreciate poetry, reading to him from a book of verses she had purchased in one of the towns. They talked endlessly, learning each other in the way that only time and proximity allow. They also grew physically closer, their relationship deepening in the intimate privacy of their travels. August was patient and gentle, always considerate of Amelia's feelings, and she discovered a capacity for passion and joy that she had not known she possessed. Being married to August was nothing like she had imagined marriage would be. It was partnership, friendship, and love all woven together. In early December, they reached Santa Fe. The town was unlike anything Amelia had ever seen, with adobe buildings and a mix of cultures that reflected its history as a Spanish and Mexican settlement before becoming part of the United States. The air was crisp and cold, the sky impossibly blue, and the mountains rose in the distance like ancient guardians. August found work almost immediately with a rancher who needed experienced hands for the winter. The pay was good, and the rancher offered them a small house on his property, a two-room adobe structure with a fireplace and a view of the mountains. It was simple but sturdy, and Amelia fell in love with it immediately. They settled into their new life with a sense of contentment that felt almost miraculous. August worked long days, but he always came home to Amelia with a smile and a kiss, eager to hear about her day. Amelia kept the house, cooked meals, and began to explore the town. She made friends with some of the other ranch wives, women who welcomed her warmly and taught her about the local customs and culture. In the evenings, Amelia wrote in her diary, recording the details of their new life. She wrote about the beauty of Santa Fe, about the kindness of their neighbors, about the profound gratitude she felt every day for August and the freedom he had given her. The diary became a chronicle of happiness, each entry a testament to how much her life had changed. As winter deepened, Amelia realized she was with child. The knowledge filled her with a mix of excitement and fear. She told August one evening as they sat by the fire, his arm around her shoulders. "I am going to have a baby," she said softly. August went very still, and then he turned to look at her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Amelia," he breathed, "are you sure?" "Yes," she said, "I am sure." August pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I am going to be a father," he said, wonder in his voice. "We are going to have a family." They talked late into the night about names and hopes and fears. August promised he would be nothing like his own father, nothing like Samuel Zimmerman. He would be patient and kind and present. Amelia believed him. She had seen his character every day since they met, and she had no doubt he would be an excellent father. The winter passed in a blur of preparation. Amelia sewed baby clothes from soft fabric, and August built a cradle with his own hands, carving small stars into the headboard. The women in town rallied around Amelia, offering advice and hand-me-down items and promises to help when the baby came. Amelia felt supported in a way she never had before, part of a community that cared about her well-being. In late July of 1884, Amelia gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The labor was long and difficult, but August stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand and whispering encouragement. When the midwife finally placed the baby in Amelia's arms, she looked down at his tiny face and felt a love so fierce it took her breath away. "What should we name him?" August asked, his voice rough with emotion. Amelia thought of her mother, of the life she had left behind, of the new life she and August were building. "James," she said. "James Matthew Irving, after his father." August kissed her forehead, and then his sons. James Matthew Irving, he repeated. Welcome to the world, little one. The years that followed were filled with the ordinary joys and challenges of family life. James grew into a bright, curious child with his father's green eyes and his mother's dark hair. When he was 2, Amelia gave birth to a daughter they named Catherine, after Amelia's mother. And 2 years after that, another son arrived, whom they named Thomas. August proved to be every bit the father he had promised to be. He was patient with the children, playing games and teaching them about the world with endless enthusiasm. He never raised his hand to them, never spoke to them in anger, and Amelia sometimes caught him watching them with an expression of such love and pride that it made her heart ache. In 1888, when James was 4, Catherine was 2, and Thomas was an infant, they received unexpected news. A letter arrived from Texas, forwarded through several addresses before reaching them in Santa Fe. It was from August's sister, Margaret, informing them that their mother had passed away peacefully in her sleep. The letter also contained a surprise. Their mother had left the family ranch to August, the only son. August and Amelia discussed it at length. The ranch in Texas represented security, land, a legacy for their children. But it also meant leaving Santa Fe, leaving the life they had built. In the end, they decided to go. They packed up their belongings, sold what they could not take, and made the long journey to Texas with 3 small children. The ranch was in better condition than August had expected. His sisters had kept it running with the help of hired hands, and they welcomed August and Amelia with open arms. Margaret and her sister Ruth adored the children and were grateful to have family nearby again. The ranch house was large enough for everyone, and for a while they all lived together, a boisterous, chaotic household full of love and laughter. Amelia flourished in Texas. She had space and freedom, good neighbors, and a network of women who became dear friends. She continued to write in her diary, which had become a multi-volume chronicle of her life. She wrote about the children's milestones, about the seasons on the ranch, about the enduring love she and August shared. August built the ranch into a successful operation, breeding quality horses and running cattle on the grasslands. He was respected in the community, known for his fairness and integrity. People who did business with him knew his word was his bond, and that reputation served him well. The children grew up strong and healthy, educated at the local schoolhouse and at home by Amelia, who taught them to read and think and question. She made sure her daughter Catherine had the same opportunities as her brothers, teaching her that a woman's mind was every bit as valuable as a man's. The lessons Amelia had learned from her own restricted childhood informed every choice she made as a mother. One evening in 1895, when James was 11 and starting to help his father with the horses, Amelia and August sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky was ablaze with color, and the air was soft with the promise of spring. "Do you ever regret it?" August asked quietly. "Leaving your father's house the way you did? Never looking back?" Amelia was silent for a moment, considering the question seriously. "No," she said finally. "I regret nothing. You gave me a life, August. You gave me myself." August took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "You gave me just as much, Amelia. You gave me a family, a home, a reason to be better than I might have been otherwise." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the colors deepen and fade. Amelia thought about the girl she had been, silent and afraid, watching her words burn. She thought about the diary with the lock that August had given her, the gift that had changed everything, and she thought about the life they had built together, a life that had begun with an act of kindness from a cowboy who saw her when no one else did. "I love you," she said, squeezing his hand. "I love you too," August replied, and in those simple words was the weight of 12 years of marriage, of challenges faced and overcome together, of joy shared and multiplied. In 1898, when their eldest, James, was 14, Amelia received a letter that she had not expected. It was from a lawyer in Egar, Arizona, informing her that Samuel Zimmerman had died. He had left no will, and as his only surviving child, Amelia was entitled to his property. The ranch had fallen into disrepair, but it could be sold, and the proceeds would be hers. Amelia read the letter twice, feeling nothing but a distant sadness. Her father had died alone, as he had lived, pushing away everyone who might have cared for him. She had not seen him or spoken to him in 15 years, and she felt no urge to mourn him now. "What do you want to do?" August asked when she showed him the letter. "Sell it," Amelia said without hesitation. "Use the money for the children's education, or to improve the ranch. I want nothing from that place except the knowledge that I will never have to go back there." August nodded, respecting her decision. They arranged for the property to be sold, and the money was divided between savings for the children and improvements to the Texas ranch. Amelia felt a sense of closure, a final severing of the ties that had once bound her to a painful past. The years continued to pass in the way they do, sometimes slowly, sometimes with startling speed. James grew into a young man who shared his father's integrity and his mother's love of learning. He went to college in Austin, studying agriculture and business, with plans to return to the ranch and help his father expand the operation. Catherine became a teacher, passionate about education, and determined to make a difference in young people's lives. Thomas, the youngest, inherited his father's way with horses and became a skilled trainer, sought after throughout the region. August and Amelia grew older together, their hair turning gray, their faces lined with age and laughter. They remained devoted to each other, their love deepening with time rather than fading. They were grandparents many times over, their house often filled with the noise and chaos of visiting children and grandchildren. On a warm evening in the spring of 1910, Amelia sat on the porch with her diary in her lap. She was 63 years old, and August was 67. They had been married for 27 years, and every one of those years had been a gift. August came out to join her, moving a bit more slowly than he once had, his joints stiff with age. He sat beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. "Writing again?" he asked. "Always," Amelia said with a smile. "I have almost filled this one. I will need a new book soon." "I will get you one," August promised, "with a lock, just like the first." Amelia leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the solid warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart. "Do you remember the night we met?" she asked. "In the general store in Egar?" "I remember everything about you," August said. "I saw you carrying that heavy bag, so determined, so strong even though you were hurting, and I thought, that is a woman worth knowing." "You gave me my voice back," Amelia said softly. "That diary you gave me, it was more than just a book. It was permission to exist, to think, to be myself." "You always had that voice," August corrected gently. "I just gave you a safe place to use it." Amelia closed her diary and set it aside. She turned to look at her husband, this man who had loved her so faithfully, who had shown her what kindness looked like, who had built a life with her based on respect and partnership and deep, abiding affection. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for seeing me, for loving me, for giving me this beautiful life." August cupped her face in his hands, and she saw tears in his eyes. "Thank you for saying yes," he replied. "Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being my wife, my partner, the mother of my children. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Amelia Irving." They kissed, long and sweet, a kiss that held decades of love and memory. And as they sat together on the porch, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky, Amelia felt a profound sense of peace and gratitude. She had been given a second chance at life, and she had not wasted it. The ranch thrived, the family grew, and the years continued their steady march forward. August and Amelia celebrated their 30th anniversary, surrounded by children and grandchildren, their home filled with laughter and love. They traveled occasionally, visiting places Amelia had only read about, fulfilling dreams she had once thought impossible. In the quiet moments, Amelia still wrote in her diary. She wrote about the joys of growing old with someone you loved, about the satisfaction of seeing your children build good lives, about the simple pleasures of a garden in bloom and a meal shared with family. She wrote about August, always August, the cowboy who had bought her a diary with a lock, and in doing so had unlocked her entire life. And when many years later, Amelia was an old woman with great grandchildren playing at her feet, she would tell them the story of how she and August met. She would tell them about a father who burned her words and a cowboy who gave them back to her. She would tell them about running away in the moonlight, about vows spoken in a dusty courthouse, about a journey to Santa Fe, and a life built on love and trust. Never let anyone silence you, she would tell her granddaughters, pressing their hands between her own. Your words matter. Your thoughts matter. You matter. And if someone tries to take that from you, you find the courage to take it back. And to her grandsons, she would say, be the kind of man who sees someone struggling and offers help without expecting anything in return. Be the kind of man who respects a woman's voice, who values her thoughts, who treats her as an equal. Be the kind of man your grandfather was. August lived to be 82 years old, active and engaged until the very end. When he finally passed, peacefully in his sleep with Amelia beside him, she grieved deeply, but without regret. They had been given more years together than many couples ever got, and every one of those years had been filled with love. Amelia lived 5 more years after August's death, surrounded by family, still writing in her diary, even when her hands were gnarled with arthritis. On a quiet afternoon in the summer of 1923, she passed away in her sleep, the diary open on her lap, a smile on her face. Her children found the diary and all the volumes that had come before it, spanning 4 decades of a life well lived. They read the entries, learning things about their mother they had never known, seeing the depth of her love for their father, her gratitude for the life he had given her. And they understood, perhaps for the first time, the full significance of the gift August had given Amelia all those years ago in Eagar, Arizona. The diaries were preserved, passed down through generations as a family treasure. They became a testament to the power of kindness, to the way a single act of compassion can change the trajectory of a life. They became a love story, written in Amelia's own hand, chronicling a romance that began with a cowboy's gentle perception and grew into a partnership that lasted a lifetime. And in those pages, locked safely away from prying eyes, Amelia Zimmerman Irving had found what she had been searching for all along: freedom, love, and the knowledge that her words, her thoughts, her very existence mattered to someone. August had seen her when she was invisible, had valued her when she felt worthless, and had loved her when she had forgotten how to love herself. It was, in every sense, a love story for the ages. A Wild West romance, born from ashes and kindness, nurtured through hardship and joy, and sustained through all the years that followed by the simple, powerful truth that they had chosen each other, and they would choose each other again every single day for the rest of their lives. The locked diary had been a gift, but the real treasure had been the man who gave it and the life they built together, word by precious word.